All right, moving along.
Let's move along.
Yeah.
All right. This one, you know what? I'm going to do the big one because we're kind of running out of time. I don't think we're going to get through all the stories I had lined up.
Okay.
This one is the number one rated story in the pro revenge subreddit.
Okay.
So it's banger. 81,000 upvotes. It's an all-timer from 5 years ago. Boom.
Boom.
Coworker tried to get me fired over breast implants. So I pulled a reverse Uno card.
Ooh. Let's hear it.
I'm going to try to read this one a little bit fast because it's a lengthy one. All right.
How long?
Long.
Can I see?
No.
Okay.
You always, Teresa does this. She's like, how long is it? Why do you gotta do such a long one? And then I do the long ones. And then we clip it down into the TikTok format for our Instagram and TikTok. And they blow up. And people love the long ones. The algorithm loves the long ones. And then she's always like, that was such a good story you have. But when I'm reading it, she's like, why is it so long?
Because I have to sit here and like try to focus for like 15 minutes straight. It's hard.
It is hard. It's when you're not the one reading, it's a job to pay attention and follow the story because your mind gets distracted
It's like,
so quickly.
oh, that light needs to be dusted.
Flicker. Yeah,
Oh,
a little flicker over
oh,
there.
look at my diploma over there. I'm going to read every freaking word about it. Okay. Yes. But actually, let us know if you guys like the longer stories. Which you prefer?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Would you prefer more short stories or more long stories? Wait.
Yeah.
More short stories or less long stories?
No. That's the same thing. More short stories or less stories that are longer.
Yes. That's it right there.
Let us know.
All right. 4 years ago, when I was 24, my mom died of breast cancer. And both of my grandparents had also died from breast cancer, so I saw a specialist for a screening. I found out that I did have some cells in one of my breasts that could turn cancerous at any given moment. So I was told that I had a few options. Number one, I could have regular screenings every 3 to 4 months until it does develop into cancer. I was told the risk of cells becoming cancerous are very high due to my family history, but it could also potentially never turn, so I could be getting screenings for no reason. Number two, I could get a single mastectomy
Yep.
on the breast with the bad cells, but they would need to keep an eye on the other one, so I'd still need regular checkups on the other breast. Number three, I could get a bilateral mastectomy and remove all of my breast tissue, basically eliminating all risk. Well, I went for option 3. It was admittedly the most drastic option, but after seeing what cancer did to my mom and grandmothers, I did not want to risk it. I was warned about scarring, but told it should be fairly minor. Well, it wasn't. Left me with 2 huge pink jagged scars on either side of my chest, each about 1 inch long and 1/2 inch wide, and it caused me to go into a pretty severe depression, where it got to the stage of me not even leaving my flat because I didn't want to see people, throwing out my mirrors and getting physically sick of looking at myself.
Oh my God.
So I went to a therapist who suggested plastic surgery. The therapist said they never normally do that, but it was clearly something I was struggling with and I might never get over it, and the therapist could see why I struggled with it. Although, I'll admit, the therapist did send me to ask about scar reduction. The plastic surgeon suggested a cream, laser, or implants. The cream didn't work and the laser was both expensive and risky, so I decided to go with the implants. My natural boobs were an F cup, so I went slightly smaller with double Ds. Since then, my mental health has greatly improved and I feel a lot better about the way that I look. My confidence has gone up, and so is my self-esteem. I know I shouldn't put so much into my appearance, but I'm not exaggerating about these scars. They were huge, bright pink, jagged and raised, and just really awful to look at, and I hated seeing myself. And now they are nicely hidden away and I can barely feel them. Now, to the present day. I'm 28 years old and working in an office. I'm doing a lot better than I was. My coworker, Jill, found out I had a boob job, but nothing about the cancer part. When myself and a friend were talking about planning a holiday, and she made a joke about me going on the plane with my implants. Well, Jill overheard that. By the end of the day, the entire office knew I had a boob job, but not why. About 6 people confirmed that Jill was the one who told them. Over the next few months, Jill made so many jokes and comments about my chest to coworkers when I was in earshot. At one point saying I had more plastic than Barbie and calling me fake in 2 ways. I didn't hear this one myself, but a friend in the office told me that Jill at one point referred to me as a sack of silicone. I don't know what her problem was exactly, but at one point she mentioned the NHS. So I assumed Jill thought that I'd got my tits done for free on taxpayer money. I'd gotten the mastectomy from NHS, but gone private for therapy and implants. I'm imagining this person's in Great Britain or something in the UK, because they say flats there, and I have no idea what NHS is.
Yeah.
I'm imagining it's public health care.
Okay.
Moving along. I asked her to stop more than once, but unfortunately the places I talked to her were places like the lift and the woman's bathroom, where there weren't any cameras, and Jill just kept making comments no matter how often I asked her not to. I wouldn't say it was every single day, but I heard at least 3 comments per week for about 3 months. I hit my breaking point when me, Jill, and a few other coworkers were having lunch. I referred to something being shallow, and Jill chimed in and said, "You'd know all about being shallow," while gesturing to my chest. I snapped. I said, "Do you know why I have these? A few years ago, the doctor found potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I was advised to get a mastectomy and was left with huge ugly scars on my chest. I went to see a therapist who sent me to a cosmetic surgeon who advised me to get implants to hide the scars. And I did that just so I could look at myself in the mirror without crying. So maybe next time you want to judge somebody for having cosmetic surgery, you should ask them why they had it first." And I felt like a mic drop moment, and I picked up my food and left. For the rest of the day, I had about 1/3 of my office come up to me and offer support. And the rest tell me that Jill was just joking around and I was actually being a bitch. I replied that Jill was being a bitch long before I was. I then got an email from HR saying they wanted to talk to me the following day. And when I called for clarification, they mentioned a hostile work environment. I knew the person who signed off on the email and had spoken to her. Her name was Debbie, and she was really good friends with Jill. So I was fairly confident on who had reported me. I realized that if I was already being sent to HR, I needed as much ammunition as possible. So I went about collecting my information. As Debbie had dealt with me so far, it was safe to assume she would be the person reviewing the complaint with me. And if that was true, I was absolutely fucked. However, I vaguely remembered a section on complaints that was in my contract when I first signed on with the company. I flicked through the contract and there was a part in complaints section that said I was contractually allowed to request a change of reviewer if I felt the allocated reviewer was biased. It was called an impartial overseer. I photocopied that page and highlighted that part. Then I asked the people who had offered their support over Facebook and said basically, HR have asked to see me. Do any of you remember Jill insulting me to your face, and are you willing to write and sign something that says what you heard it and when? Not everyone was willing to help, as some feared what would happen in the office due to HR being close with Jill and management, but about 20 people were willing to help me. I guessed roughly when I asked Jill to stop previously. The 4 asks over the last few months. Some timings were easy to guess that they just happened on my break or when I first arrived at work. I wrote them all down, along with a rough time of when the lunchroom confrontation happened and a list of names who was there for the lunchroom confrontation. I got to work slightly early the next morning. I went around to everyone who had messaged me, and most of them had messaged me back with a printed and signed letter. This isn't the exact words, but the 16 letters were summed up in this way, and here's the gist of it. My name is this, I work with this person, and at this time, this person referred to her with an insult from Jill and blah, blah, blah. I wound up with 16 letters, all from different people, and the one of them who was in the lunchroom with my conversation with Jill. Some even had bullet-pointed lists of everything Jill had said to them about me or other people, and as it turns out, Jill has issues with a lot of people's appearances. She apparently made comments about one coworker's weight, and something about another coworker's nose, as which were put into these letters. There are about 45 people in the office, so while 16 isn't the majority, it's a decent amount. The letters weren't hugely long, most were only a paragraph, but they all had the necessary information. So I was asked to come down to HR at 10 a.m. I took the letters from the coworkers, the photocopy of the page in my contract, and my dates and times in a little folder with me. I got there, and Debbie was overseeing the interview. She got up from her desk, ready to lead me into another room. I immediately turned to the other HR worker who was currently there and said, "Oh, so is my meeting with you then?" And Debbie was like, "Nope, you're with me." I replied that this doesn't sit well with me, and as my contract states, I have the right to an impartial overseer. And as I said that, I took the contract page out of my folder. Debbie read it. I wouldn't even let her take it from my hands because there was a shredder close by. And she said she could be impartial. I replied that I really didn't mean to be a pain, but I had it on good authority that the person on the other end of this complaint is her friend. And my contract does say I'm allowed to an impartial overseer. Debbie stomped off to get a supervisor. Supervisor asked how I know that she can't be impartial, and I told him that I have it on good authority that Jill, who is on the other end of the complaint, is a close friend of Debbie. He asked Debbie, "Is this true?" To which she only replied that I can be impartial. Supervisor took a deep breath, asked the other HR rep to come with him, and the four of us went in to review the complaint. I thanked them for being so accommodating, and Debbie took out the complaint, and all three of them went through it. Debbie looked homicidal the whole time the interview was happening, as she had clearly anticipating firing me, or at least recommending me to be fired. The interview went something like this. It took over a half an hour, and they kept asking me the same questions but phrased in different ways. So here is a really drastically condensed version. Question: you said outside that you think Jill, last name, reported you. Why is this? Answer: Jill has had an issue with me for about 3 months. Another question: why didn't you come to us when you realized Jill had an issue? Answer: well, I have no issue with her. Question: what issue does Jill have with you? Answer: 4 years ago, a specialist identified potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had a surgery to remove the breast tissue. Therefore, it left me with huge scars on my chest, and then I went to a cosmetic surgeon or plastic surgeon to get breast implants to cover my scars. This is the medical history, which you all have a copy of in my file and full permission to review. Jill found out about my breast implants but didn't know about the cancer. Jill had a problem with my breast implants and decided to communicate this problem to our coworkers. Question: why do you feel this is true? Answer: here's 16 signed statements from other coworkers, all testifying that Jill told the entire office I had breast implants on the day she found out and has since made comments about these implants frequently. They have quotes of what Jill said to them and rough times and dates. Question: rough times and dates? Answer: no one knew this would escalate so much to the extent that no one really took notes of when it happened. Question: what event or events do you think led directly to the complaint of harassment? Answer: for me, the harassment began when Jill told everyone about my breast implants without my consent. But as to the complaint placed against me, it would probably be what happened about the time yesterday in the lunchroom. Jill made a comment about me being shallow while gesturing to my breasts. I replied by giving her an abbreviated version of my relevant medical history and ending with a comment about the importance of getting the full story. There are cameras in the lunchroom, so I'm sure you'll be able to find that conversation. I'll admit I could have handled the situation better, but after 3 months, I felt I had to put my foot down. Here's a list of the names for the people who were present. There were 6 people at the table, including Jill and myself. One of these people is also in these letters and has written their account of the conversation and signed it. Question: had you had a conversation with Jill prior to this regarding her comments about you? Answer: several times, spaced out over 3 months. Each time I communicated to her, I felt uncomfortable and upset with these comments she was making and would appreciate it if she were to stop. Question: to your knowledge, was Jill made aware of your former cancer at any point? Answer: no, it wasn't mentioned in the conversation with my friend that she overheard, and I didn't tell her because frankly it's none of her business, and I did not feel the need to detail my medical history to a coworker in order to avoid sexual harassment. Supervisor stands up and says, well, I think we're done here. He shakes my hands and sends me back to my desk, saying I'd hear from them after they reviewed all the evidence. And then they would make a decision on the case. Well, I go back to my desk, I pull up my cover letter, and I prepare to start job searching again. About an hour goes by, and then the person who wrote the letter and was there for the lunchroom conversation gets called in HR. They come back about 10 minutes later. The other person who's also there gets called in to HR. 10 minutes later, another coworker. They all get called in one by one. Then the people who wrote the letters but weren't in the lunchroom yesterday were also called one by one to go in. By about 3:30, it looks like everyone who wrote a letter or was there in the lunchroom had been interviewed. Then, finally, Jill got called in. She's gone for 30 minutes and comes back fuming. She glares at me while I work, but I just ignore her. 4:30ish, Jill gets called into HR again. 5 p.m. rolls around and everyone is either leaving or getting ready to leave when Jill storms back into the office. She glares at me the whole time while she packs up her desk. She then starts telling anyone that will listen that I got her fired before shoving her way into the lift. An email comes from HR. My case has been closed.
Oh, Jill, you got yourself fired. You played yourself.
Mm-hmm. Man,
that's a good one.
That's some revenge. Getting someone fired there.
Great revenge.
Like, how big of a piece of shit
it's honestly
do you have to be to make some fun of someone's appearance, regardless of whether her medical history was there? Like, if she wants a boob job, a nose job, a lip job, a chin job, you have no position to say anything about it. She's your coworker.
Yep.
Do your fucking job and go home.
Yep. Yeah. Why is it any of your business?
It's not.
How does it affect you in what way?
Doesn't.
Exactly.
Just a shit talker, drama starter.
Yeah. This honestly isn't even like revenge. Honestly, it's kind of just like
karma.
The consequence of your own actions.
Yeah, exactly. Karma.
It's like she didn't do anything like that she shouldn't have done.
No.
Like an OP.
Yeah, no, exactly.
She reacted she just held her ground.
It's harassment.
And it is harassment, yeah.
Even if she didn't have a surgery and she just wanted a boob job, who the fuck are you to say shit, bud?
Exactly.
None of your business. You overheard a conversation. You're a fucking nosy little bitch.
When was this posted? 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
So 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's still the same.
It's still the same. Like, yeah, you should still, like, have the same views in 2019. Like, people could do whatever the fuck they want with their bodies.
Literally.
It has nothing to do with you. It's none of your business.
Same thing as making fun of people for the clothes they wear, the laugh they have, the hair they do.
Yeah.
Like, punch your clock, do your job, go home.
Yeah.
You got what you deserve. Disgusting.
And she had other issues with other employees too, which says a
lot.
lot.
Says a lot.
Says a lot, Jill.
It says a lot.
You'll probably get fired from your next job too.
Probably.
And she'll probably blame that person.
She's a blamer.
Never look inwards. Never take accountability for herself.
She's a blamer.
Yeah.
Top comment. Paper trails are often the undoing of petty, vindictive people. I've seen it several times in my life, providing said paper trail usually, and it's always satisfying. This one was especially satisfying. Bonus, you can now tell people that your breasts are so magnificent, they get people fired. I mean, if you really want to.
I love it.
Yeah,
yes.
that's good.